what is BIM? BIM's the buzzword that was picked up in around 2003 as the new name for something that would really be innovative in the construction industry. At the beginning of the era of computer-aided design, there was this debate whether we were developing techniques for producing drawings better or producing the model of the object that's being fabricated and implemented. And it took the construction industry much longer than other industries to make that change to modeling the product rather than modeling drawings, modeling an artificial representation. So it wasn't until about 2003 that the industry as a whole recognizes the value of 3D modeling of the object and the building from that object and carrying all the attributes and information of those objects. They named it BIM. Other industries called it virtual design and construction. It's been going on for 20 years in the aerospace and manufacturing industries. But with Autodesk's purchase of Revit, gave credibility by the leading CAD vendor that this was a direction for the future, and the adoption has been very fast.
So Chuck has talked to you about the history of building information modeling and how it's taking hold in the structural steel and precast concrete industries. And as you know, we're working with a lot of the masonry industry trade associations and companies in masonry with architects and structural engineers to develop BIM for masonry. And that entails a number of projects that you should be aware of. The first of these projects is with masonry material suppliers. And one of the huge problems with the masonry industry is that it offers a wide range of products across the clay masonry, concrete masonry, and custom masonry like cast stone and cut stone products. And none of these are represented in a common way. So you can imagine in a BIM system, sometimes we see these objects in BIM systems as simply blobs that don't have any attribute data. So there's no way to query the drawings. There's no way for the models to really understand that there's masonry in these buildings because we don't have a common data infrastructure for the masonry units themselves. So that's our first project for the industry, is to develop this, what we call the masonry unit model database.
The ability to integrate all the different trades and systems into a single integrated model, that's a complicated story, but it's very critical. That's a central thing that contractors do, and it's facing the work in the construction site every day. So coordination, spatial coordination, time coordination, tracking materials, material supplies. All of these things are facilitated by building information modeling, and as the rest of the industries move forward on this, then it's really incumbent on all the industries that are coordinating, working together to do that too. 20 years from now, we're going to see a really huge transformation of the construction industry, and especially what happens on a construction site. We're going to see a variety of augmentations for supply line, from deliveries, automation in terms of scheduling and adaptability, new kinds of technologies in terms of materials and how they're placed and formed, so that BIM really facilitates and allows all this to happen.
Part of what we're doing in the BIM for Masonry project is imagining a future state and imagining how software has to get better to get us there. And we really have to be able to represent all aspects of masonry, all of the masonry units, the wall systems, the details, the flow of materials on the job site from the manufacturers through the delivery chain in order to make the future state masonry BIM possible. And Chuck talked about augmentation and the actual use of BIM on the job site. So you can imagine masons themselves having access to information about where the materials are, perhaps automation in terms of cutting of units, which we know is a difficult activity for masons to accomplish safely with OSHA standards for breathing silicates and things like this. So all of this future state technology that's going to make masonry competitive with other material systems is going to come to us through BIM, because BIM is the technology that ties it all together. Imagine that architects and engineers are putting building models together, and masonry suppliers can query those models the way that we used to have to go to the Dodge reports and look and see what projects were under the planning stages and what sort of buildings were being planned for construction next year. And you can actually query these models and see if there's block and brick on these jobs, and manufacturers will have immediate access into the building models and try and sell their products directly to the architects and engineers who are designing the buildings. So again, the idea of having true representation of masonry in BIM allows us to understand how much masonry is in these projects and compete for that work. And that's just yet another advantage of the BIM for Masonry initiative. If we don't instantiate masonry, if we don't make masonry BIM happen, then architects and engineers won't have the tools necessary to design masonry buildings. And so if masonry buildings can't be designed, there won't be masonry buildings, and so there won't be work. I think the better advantage is to say that this new kind of augmented masonry industry that's has an intense infusion of digital technology will allow masonry to be more competitive. So not only will we maintain the masonry that we have today, but with new masonry systems and new technology that makes us more productive, we will actually perhaps gain market share over competitive systems. And that's kind of what we all want to hear.
In many ways, BIM facilitates new innovations and new directions, new pieces, mass customization, new patterns, new ways of structurally reinforcing masonry structures. It's going to open up the door for a lot of innovation, and not only should we think this being a terminal step, it's just an incremental step for other things will pick up and run after BIM is adopted.